right, how are you? Welcome, adventurers. Welcome to another one of our Slant Alpha adventures, new with 50% more furry co-pilot. And you guys probably, if you, well, I don't know about probably, but any of you that do follow the Slant Alpha social media, you saw the announcement that we have a fourth furry co-pilot in the house now. We got the cat downstairs, and we got the three canines, the three amigos now up here. Well, they're working on becoming amigos, at least. We'll put it to you that way. But yeah, if you want to see a picture of him, you can check it out over on the Slant Alpha Adventures Facebook page or the Slant Alpha Twitter feed. There, at the bottom of the screen, at least when the VATSIM Expo announcement's not up, you got the links to the Facebook and the Twitter and the Discord there at the bottom of your screen, and you can go check out pictures of the newest, latest and greatest furry co-pilot. Oh, here he is, making his cam. Oh, come here. You want to come here? Come say hi. This is Mozzie. So say hi to America and the world. There's Mozzie. Okay. All right. Well, we've got a lot of flying to do tonight, Mozzie. So you're gonna have to get down. He is. We think he is a Shih Tzu and Yorkie mix. He's a rescue, second. Our third rescue overall, fourth rescue overall, and second one from the Animal Allies Rescue Foundation, aka ARF, here in the Baltimore area. So our thanks go to them. And welcome to Muzz. Yeah, rescues are the best, says Duluth Fly. Welcome to you. Appreciate you being back here. 4-day for me has just stopped in. Red Dragon is here as well.
You will respect my authority.
And Ken Fryer has said hello all. All right, guys, we've got lots of flying to do. Oh, come on. Be nice. And, well, all right, I know you're very excited to be here today. Aren't we all? We've got a lot of flying for you tonight. Headphone cord. We've got a lot of flying for you to do tonight as we are trying to cover wings over New England training flights in this tutorial here. Numbers 5 through 7. We've got Captain Scientist checking in as well. Don't forget, guys, the end of the stream, it is our April raffle night as well. So we'll talk about that once we get going. But Wings Over New England is a training series that's offered by the Boston Virtual ARTCC, BVARTCC.com, and the Wings flights are here. This is Wings Over New England, and you get the introduction, kind of gives you an idea of what the program is all about. Actually, I think you might maybe get a better sense of it by looking at the flights. The idea is that it's procedural training flights, 6 VFR and 24 IFR flights. So it's a total of 30 flights. And if you go through them sequentially, it's two things. Number one is you start with a very basic VFR flight and a very basic IFR flight. And as you do each one successfully, and then successively, the next flights add on new and more complex procedures to what you already learned. So the further you get into it, the more advanced VFR and then IFR procedural stuff you learn. So that's we've been progressing through this series here on stream, and we've been saving those flight archives over on our YouTube channel as we always do, but we've been putting these in their own playlist now. We had a playlist called Tutorials. I've now split that up into 3 categories of tutorials. So the Wings Over New England flights are going to go into their own tutorial playlist over on the YouTube channel. We are tonight looking at IFR flights number 5, 6, and 7. And as we start with IFR 5, we will see, and the other thing that this does, I meant to say, is if you fly all 30 of them in succession, each one picks up where the last one left off. So you can fly them one after the other, and you will always start the next flight where you ended the previous one. So it ends up being a nice tour of the whole Boston Virtual ARTCC area, which kind of covers this whole chunk of the Northeast, including most of New England and pieces of upstate New York, and all the way up into the Canadian border. So, Wings 5, when we last left our heroes, and we've been flying these into DC3 because I've been having some stuttering issues with Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. I think we've got those figured out now, and we're back in Flight Sim 2020. We're back in the Carenado Mooney Ovation. Hopefully this will go well. But we last arrived at Albany, and I promise I'll catch up with the chat messages in just a few moments, guys. Last landed at Albany, and we're going to fly this back to Boston. Now, there's a weird thing with IFR 5. It might need to be slightly updated. I just pointed this out in the BVARTCC forums today, that there might be just a little bit of a tweak with that they have to do. One of the things that they teach you how to do in this program is to look up the route from the preferred route database, which you can do from a VATSIM source such as the one that I use. You can do it from the actual FAA source. It says that the route to file is Albany and then the Gardner Arrival, Gardner 4 in this case, and then we'll get the Albany radar vector departure. However, I'll show you something unusual, and I think it may just be that this, whoops, no, not NYPD, NYPRD. And I did this, if we go from KALB to KBOS, I did this in the actual FAA site as well, and I did this in the Boston virtual one. It now says the route to file is Albany, Gardner VOR, Victor 431 Reaver, which is not the Gardner 4 arrival. However, if you look at the Gardner 4 arrival, Albany 7 departure, look what it is. It's Albany, then it's this route here to Gardner, and then it's this route here, the 111 radial, and you end up at Reaver. Well, lo and behold, if you put that on Sky Vector, it is indeed Victor 431 that you take out to Reaver. So it is exactly the same route. The difference is, instead of being the Gardner 4 arrival, it's a Victor Airway, and what that really changes is nothing much except for the minimum en route altitudes along the segment. So this is minimum en route of 3,500, minimum en route of 2,000. If you're looking at the Gardner Arrival, the minimum en routes are higher. It's 5,000 at the segment, and then this final segment isn't marked. So it really only changes the minimum en route altitudes, and then of course at the Gardner Arrival has this vertical planning planning information. It's not really a hard altitude assignment or a hard altitude restriction. It's just telling you what altitude to expect at this point. So really, it doesn't change much of anything except these MEAs. So there's not much of a difference. However, since the lesson is about filing and flying stars, my guess is they want us to continue to file Albany Gardner 4, even though that is not anymore what comes out of the PRD. Of course, the J Fund 2 would be an RNAV jet arrival. We can't file that as a prop. So anyway, some clarification probably needed to be made in this IFR 5 lesson as to which route they want us to file, but other than that, it is just some guidance on how to file a star. Expected altitude information, again, that's not a firm restriction. You have to go by the restriction that the controller assigns. The MEAs you really don't follow. You don't automatically descend to those. If you had something like this, this is where you would have firm altitude restrictions, but you don't have these here. The MEAs are not something that you normally, they're informational, they're not they're not instructions. The Gardner Arrival just tells you how the altitude restriction is going to sound. We're probably going to ask for lower because we've got some icing warnings in this area. So we're probably going to ask for the lowest feasible altitude they can get us just to stay out of the icing. And the Mooney Ovation in VATSIM 2020, and the real Mooney Ovation, as far as I know, does not have any anti-icing capability. So really shouldn't be flying a Mooney into known icing conditions. But we'll watch the temperatures and we'll stay as low as we can, and we'll take it as it comes. The other thing to note is the weather. Aside from the precipitation in the area, and you can see the clouds are looking a little gloomy out here, but that's kind of a secondary concern. The big concern is the wind. If you can see that, it says KALB, and it gives the date and time of the observation. Wind is currently 280 at 20, gusting 34. So that's 20 knots, gusting to 34 knots out of the west. If we look at the arrival into Boston, Boston currently reporting 270, 20, gusting to 29. Hopefully we get a runway at each of these locations that is more or less aligned with the wind. I have no idea what the maximum demonstrated crosswind is for a Mooney Ovation. But if that ends up being a crosswind, we'll probably exceed it. And again, those are things that are not truly strictly enforced in VATSIM, but we definitely need to keep in mind that these are going to be very, very tricky arrivals because of the gusty crosswinds. All right, let's check in with the chat. I know you guys were saying hi to Mozzie earlier. He is a cutie, but he's a feisty one. He's 3 years old. Our other two are 8 years old, so he's the puppy of the bunch for sure. So that's going to be kind of an adjustment. We'll see how it goes. Duluth Fly says, I just got off work. Let's chill and fly a plane. Captain Scientist is here. Who else? We got some raffle ticket redemptions. Duluth says, I just joined the Chicago ARTCC. Excellent, man. We'll hope to talk to you soon. We got flying that way next. Commando Solo, Duluth Fly want some raffle tickets. We'll talk about the raffle tickets here in just a second. That dumb Kyle is stopped in with us. Very good. So the monthly raffle, guys, you accumulate those Twitch channel points at the bottom of the chat panel there, the alphabet points as we call them on this channel. And for every 1,000 you accumulate, you can cash in for one raffle ticket. For every 5,000 you get, if you want to cash in 5,000 at a time, you can actually get 6. We have already taken the ones that are in the system and put them into the fishbowl. So if you go exclamation point ticks, as John Smitty checks in as well, if you go exclamation point ticks, it'll tell you how many you have in this fishbowl as of this moment, 8:17 Eastern Time on Friday, April 30th. The ones that Commando Solo says, shh, I'm lurking. Okay, I think you're missing the point of lurking, Commando Solo. So Duluth Fly, yeah, that tells you have 0 coming into tonight, and Mork has 0 coming into tonight. Papa Charlie has 6 coming into tonight. The ones that you guys put in for tonight, I'm just letting you know now, I'm putting straight into the bowl. I'm not putting into the currency system first and the bowl. So the TIX command is not going to detect any that you're putting in to the chat tonight. That will tell you what you've got coming into the beginning of the stream. And then anything that you're putting up on the board now, I'm just going to manually put into the fishbowl. We'll take care of those right now, as you guys are spamming my chat with those at the moment. Duluth Fly gets 1. Commando Solo gets 1. We'll know that a retired AF gets 6. We'll know that one of the ones I've wrote out tonight will be the winner if we pull it out of the fishbowl and cannot read it, because I'm scribbling these down as quickly as possible. Because, of course, we do everything here on this channel in an analog fashion. Don't worry, I'll catch up. We got Mork gets 6 as well. All right, 6 for Mork. Papa Charlie gets 6. You guys are conspiring to just spam me with all these on the very last night, huh? Retired AF gets 6 more. Okay. We might not get the flight tonight. We might just have to do the whole stream about the raffle. Or I might have to come up with a better way to do these. Ryan Kishan gets 1. I know he's got a few that are already in the bucket. 4-Day gets 6. 4-Day gets 12. 4-Day gets 13. 14. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then 727 Freak gets 6 of them. All right. We'll separate those and get them into the fishbowl a little later on. But for right now, I have gotten all those written out, and we'll just make a pile of them for later entry into the actual bowl. I thought the entries looked a little light coming into the night. I figured you were all going to do this to me. It's all good. What we might do, just to prevent delaying the flights like that, is we might start doing raffle entries at the beginning. We might cut the entries off at the end of a stream, and then we'll do the drawing at the beginning of the next stream. That may be how we do it from now on. That's okay. You guys are good though. You guys are following the rules. We need to change the rules. What happens to the event if it's not possible to fly because of weather? Asks Commando Solo. Do you just switch to another plane that can do the event, or are you allowed to change the weather? Either of them are fine. Well, first of all, Commando Solo, I'm only doing this tonight because I decided this was my show schedule to do. Boston ARTCC will let you do these flights more or less anytime they have air traffic control on. So anytime you see Boston Center up, or some of them you don't need center, you can do with just Boston approach or even one of the smaller approach sectors only. Depending on the constraints of the flight, you might not need full ATC coverage across the ARTCC. So you can decide to do these when you prefer, whether there's ATC coverage or not. The fact that I'm sticking to this Friday night schedule is just because that's what I decided to do for tonight. So you can just decide to do it another night. You can change planes to a plane that can handle the weather, or you can change the weather. You have all those options. I'm going to kind of do my best with the realistic plane and the realistic weather, and we'll see what happens. It is going to make it a little bit of a challenge. I think if we run into icing trouble that I'm not able to escape from, then I think I probably will just adjust the weather, just because I've been trying to get to these flights and getting these tutorials posted to the YouTube channel for those that are anxious about wanting to try these flights but wanting to see them demonstrated. So I know there's a few folks have contacted me very kindly and thanked me for these. So I do want to kind of get them rolling along, and I don't want it to delay them because of things that would be outside of your control in the real world, but certainly are within our control here in the sim. Yeah, Red Dragon, we had 45 miles an hour wind near Dulles. Yeah, we've got some pretty bad winds coming through this area right now, as a matter of fact. And the power lines in this area, in my part of the county where I live now, where I moved from a year ago, they were a little bit more protected. They were mostly underground, but in this neighborhood up here, they're very exposed. So if we lose power tonight, that is something that we'll deal with as it comes. All right, let's get to the flight. We talked about so we briefed the actual constraints of the flight. Let's go ahead and get into the airplane and get it up and running. And we're not in the DC-3, we're in the M20P tonight, so let me go ahead and look at the correct checklist. I've already set my control profile and synced all my controls. Parking brake is set, levers are down. Fuel load, we're going to start with 336 pounds of fuel tonight, which is 59% full. So I'll get up here and do that. 59, and if you want to know how and that's enough fuel to cover all three of these IFR flights 5, 6, and 7, and then we'll set the payload up to about a reasonable number for me. So that's enough fuel to cover 5, 6, and 7. If you want to see how I do fuel calculations, there's a separate tutorial over there on the YouTube channel that you can check out. So fuel load's set, parking brake is on, switches are all off. We can get the battery and the nav and beacon lights up top here. That's numbers 2 and 3. Oh, and I need my sound back. You guys are hearing that, I am not, but now there we are. Fuel selector should be set on. Okay, it already is. Props can be set to full forward and mix rich. The fuel pump, boost pump goes on. Got the follow there from ZBWSG with us. Thank you, ZBW. Thank you. We may be talking to you at some point tonight, I assume, based on your Twitch handle. What do we got? The fuel pump going. Magnetos can be cranked around to both. So left, right, or right, left, and then both. We will clear the prop area, which used to be kind of a sim joke, but now in the sim there are kind of lots of people walking around. You do kind of want to do that. You can switch the fuel readout to endurance, although that doesn't really tell you much when you're idling on the ramp. All right, so we got a good start. Oil pressure came up right away. We can turn the fuel boost pump off. What else we want to do here, guys? Alternator and radio master can now come on. We did the fuel readout already. We'll do we'll mute the marker beacon sounds. Although on a low IMC, if it gets really low minimums, you kind of like to have those on to let you know when you're over those middle and inner markers in particular. But for tonight, I think the cloud cover is high enough that we'll be able to have sight of the runway well enough in advance that we won't need the marker beacon. So we'll leave this muted now. And then I'm going to put the message screen up over the GPS. Remember, on this channel, we try to do this all through radio-based navigation only, and the Wings Over New England flights strongly encourage that. If you read through the text of those lessons, they are strong advocates for knowing how to do this the kind of the old school way. As the the RNAV capability is nice to have, but it's sure is nice to have a backup set of skills so you can know how to navigate your way around through these all conventional procedures. And we got the Noxious Killer with us as well. Noxious Killer, thank you for joining us tonight. The secondary radios are all on already. We can go ahead and I'll just preemptively pop this into altitude mode, even though we don't have a squawk code or anything yet. But just so I don't forget to do that later, we'll do that now. And I think we're good there. We need to go ahead and send our flight plan, which I normally do before stream, but I didn't do that tonight because I wanted to kind of talk through what we were going to be sending. KALB to KBOS. Alternate, I didn't put one. Departure time is going to be, I'd hoped to be wheels up by now. I yammered on much longer than I intended to, plus I had to write out 50 raffle tickets just then. So we're going to call it 0045. The time en route, we think, for this first leg, we'll put it down as 59 minutes. Fuel available 4 hours and 12 minutes. Cruise speed 180 seems reasonable. And even though we're going to file 10, because that's what the tech route indicates, I think that's more of a maximum. We're going to ask them for lower. And so when you do these, when you're performing these flights as wings, IFR, VFR and IFR exam flights, and you want the controllers to evaluate for your pass and fail, you will request that over the channel with your clearance, and it's good to include it into the remarks as well. So I think everything's fine there. Go ahead and hit send, and we're good to go. Yeah, get that generator gassed up. It is raffle night indeed. Alright, did I get, I got all those, did I? Yeah, I'm caught up with this. Okay, good. Alright, so we've sent the flight plan. Let's check. We don't have an ATIS running at Albany, but we can just do a METAR. We kind of looked at it on SkyVector already, but we'll check it again just to see A, if it's updated, and B, to make sure that what's VATSIM is reporting is the same as what SkyVector has. Normally they go hand in hand. 280 at 20, gusting to 34 now, so that's, I think, increased. 2955 is the altimeter, and we can see visibility is okay, but we do have broken clouds at 3700 and overcast at 4700. So we've definitely got some cloud cover. And temperature, by the way, 7. So and you divide that by 2, and that's 3.5. So that means at 3,500 feet, we might be into freezing temperatures. So we might need to stay pretty low here, guys. Well, you know what, the other thing, although the outside air temperature showing on the gauge here is 14. You know what? Am I running live weather? I think I am. Let's come up here and look. I was not. Okay. Okay, so the outside air temperature is indeed 7. Yeah, so we're going to need to be careful. I probably will need to end up needing to manipulate that, just because, you know, look, again, I don't want to not do these flights tonight. But again, in the real world, you would have to make a go no go decision. Altimeter we said was 29er55. Let's go ahead and get that set. That's way down here. Woo. 29er55. So there's about 5.5. The field elevation at Albany is 285 feet, and that's showing just about 200 feet. Well, there might just be a minor discrepancy in what's being simulated versus what's being reported. So normally you like those to be within at least about 75 feet of each other. It might be that we're on just a side of the field that's a little bit lower. Let's look and see what it says on the airport diagram here. 284 right there at the threshold, and we're kind of right here where it says general aviation parking. So we'd expect the altimeter to be showing a little higher, but it might just be a discrepancy between what conditions Flights in 2020 is simulating versus what the METAR is reporting. So we'll set it to what's reported, and we'll just know that there's a minor discrepancy of under 100 feet there. Nav and ADF tuners. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, so that's next thing to do is get our clearance. Let's see if we can go ahead and jump onto Boston Center, which is... Well, what's BGM approach? Hold on a second. Oh, BGM is either Birmingham or Binghamton. Yeah, Binghamton, so that's not us. Alright, so we're going to be on Boston Center, 34.7. Hopefully he's not too busy. Alright, swap that up there. Whoops, 705. Try 700. There we go. Well, I don't hear anything, so that means either he's not that busy, or we just happen to catch a cab, or...
Number 3,
yeah, there we go.
November, runway 24 at hotel. Taxi via Echo Hotel.
Okay, the other thing in my planning spreadsheet, I want to go ahead and add 15 minutes here to the plan. Okay, and we're not hearing that plane read back because he's on the ground somewhere else, further away from us. So the ones in the air, we have a better chance of hearing.
Oscar Whiskey Delta, radar contact at 2,400. Climb and maintain 10,000.
We're not hearing that one, but he just took off.
Descend via the J Fund to arrival, runway 27, the Boston altimeter 29er34.
So after this readback, we'll jump in and try and get clearance. Boston Center, Mooney 514 Delta Victor.
Mooney 514 Delta Victor, Boston Center.
Yes, sir. We're at Albany. We get the weather. Looking for IFR to Boston, and we're attempting the IFR Wings 5. Wings IFR 5.
4 Delta Victor, Wings IFR 5 approved. And would you like 11 or 9,000 for direction of flight?
We'd actually like to request as low as feasible, just for weather avoidance.
Number 4 Delta Victor, you can expect 9,000 as the final. Clear to the Boston Airport via the Albany 7 departure. Radar vectors to join the Gardner Four arrival. Maintain 4,000. Departure on this frequency. Squawk 4754.
Cleared to Boston, Albany 7. Radar vectors join Gardner 4. Maintain 4,000, expecting 9,000 in 10 minutes. Departure 134.7, squawk 4754, meaning 514 Delta Victor.
Mooney 4 Delta Victor, your back is correct. Expect runway 28, Albany altimeter 2955, advise ready to taxi.
2955, expect 28, and we'll call in a few, 5 and 4 Delta Victor. Alright, so everything came in as expected. 4754 was the squawk code we were given. And, yeah, so we have to go to 9,000. I don't think this is going to work. So what we'll have to do, let's just go ahead now before we make fools of ourselves. We can call it,
Boston Center, good evening, Walker 725.
broken.
Walker 725, Boston Center.
And let's just... Yeah, so the temperature is 15, that's a little bit better.
Turn right heading 250 to intercept the final approach course.
What's 2955 in hectopascals? If you just Google this, 29.55 INHG, inches of mercury. Mercury is HG in the periodic table. So if you do 2955 INHG in millibars, so pretty much 1,000. So we'll just go ahead into the sim and set to 1,000. Or as close to that as possible. Okay, and again, the only reason I'm cheating weather is because the Mooney does not have anti-icing, but I really do want to fly it in this aircraft, and not in an aircraft that I don't know that well.
Skyway 670, 7 miles from.
So we'll do a little bit of cheating tonight. It's all good. Our initial is 4,000, so we'll go ahead and set that on the altitude reminder. Let's go ahead and get back to the checklist. Nav and ADF tuner, so we're going to be joining that Gardner Four Arrival. Let's get that in front of us. So it's just 281 until radar vector, so that's easy enough. Radar 281 and 4,000, so there's not much we need on the departure procedure, really. We're just going to be joining the Gardner Four Arrival, so it's Albany 115.3 outbound on a 111. So I'll tune 115.3 and 111 outbound, and then 115.1. Oh, no. Next one down the line is 110.6, and it's the 294 outbound, so it'll be 114. Oh, duh, it says it right there. You gotta take that and subtract 180, or just read the chart.
125.32.
Anyway, this will go in nav 1, 115.3 and 111, and then this will go in the standby, 110.6 up here. We'll go into standby. We'll be ready to switch over. So 115.3.
The wind 280 at 15.
Switch that down there. 14.15 and 3. And again, the standby, we're going to put 110.6 because that's the next VOR up the line. But the first radial off of Albany is 111. So oops, I'm sorry. That's nav 2 there. 111 is what we're going to fly off of this radial, so we'll spin that around. So there's 110 and 111. And then the runway 28, runway heading we said on that departure procedure was 281, is what it said. Or it may or may not be the runway heading, but it said the heading to fly off the runway was 281, which most likely is runway heading. But to go by what's on the departure procedure, not what's on... I mean, this is runway heading, 281.5, technically 282.
Delta 1468, contact.
But if we were to look at the...
3.0, take
If we were to look at the Albany 7, it says to maintain 281. That may or may not be runway heading. So you have to kind of watch and see, like, what does it want you to do? And in this case, it does want you to do 281, so we're good there. Got that subscription from SG over at ZBW. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. All right, so again, we're going to take off westbound. We're going to climb to 4,000 until we're given higher. And we're going to maintain 281 until we're vectored to join that Gardner Four Arrival, which is off of the 115.3 radial. VOR 115.3, the Albany VOR, and the 111 radial off of that. And so that's what we're going to intercept once we're told to. So 115.3, 111, we're taking off to the west. Who knows whether we're going to get circled around to the west, south, or circle around to the north. But we're going to end up flying in that direction. We're going to get vectored, who knows, we'll just guess. You know, maybe we're vectored to the south and we're vectored this way. So then he'll eventually give us an intercept, and then we'll just join that radial as it comes in.
For some feedback on the departure, not a big deal.
Or who knows, maybe up to the north instead, same thing this way, but whatever. Whatever he gives us, we just join that radial once he tells us to.
Sure, thanks for that, I appreciate it. Again, not a big deal here at all tonight. Just for next time on
All
the
right, guys,
Portland
let's get ready.
departure,
Let's
what the
get flying.
You do is just fly
We're gonna-
runway heading, and so we'd expect you to just stay on that runway heading as you're climbing, and then we'll give you on course, usually to about 3,000 or 4,000 feet. If you haven't been given
We're on the
course
28.
by
We're
that
from the
altitude,
GA
then by
ramp.
all means, feel free to check
Let's
with us.
talk
But
about what
prefer
we're
you don't just sort of
expecting.
make a turn on course when you're assigned to SID. Typically, you just follow the heading that's on that SID up until the time when we get you to
So we
turn on
think
course.
we're going to get probably Alpha
Okay, thank you very much. Roger that.
Charlie.
I'll do that. Appreciate it.
and out is what we probably will be given. And we got the runway 1 and 19 to cross there, so we'll have to make sure he tells us to cross. He might give us a different path, but we'll listen out and see what he says. Let me just run through and make sure I've got the rest of the pre-flight done. Initial altitude set, flaps, we're going to go ahead and run flaps through their various positions, make sure that they work, and they do, and we'll go ahead and reset them for takeoff. Trim's already set for takeoff. I like to put a little bit more nose in, nose down in, and we are ready to go. Taxi light can come on, which is there.
Arrival, descend as per the chart.
Parking brakes off.
Crushing Sky West 670. Turn up that mic. Taxi departure.
Let's get turned around here on the ramp. So as soon as he gives us our taxi, so I thought he was saluting me, but no, he's just listening to his headset. All right, so we're facing out to the that Alpha taxiway now. Center Mooney 5 and 4 Delta Victor at Albany. We're ready to taxi.
November 4 Delta Victor, runway 28, taxi via Alpha Charlie, cross runway 1.
Alpha Charlie, cross runway 1 to 28, 5 and 4 Delta Victor.
November 5757 Echo Boss is hello.
Alright, so
November 57 Echo, Nantucket altimeter 2937.
Alpha, I assume, is that way?
3, taxi via Charlie.
Yeah, this is like a service road here. That's
Runway 12,
markings of a
cross
service
runway
road.
24.
So here's our taxiway that now heads north. Think about direction, wonder why you haven't before. I used to have all those kinds of silly sound references in the commands, but anything that had a copyright protection was causing me havoc on both Twitch and YouTube, so I had to take those out. So you just have to listen to me sing those instead. On our taxi out, I'll go ahead and get these tickets separated. Gotta keep them separated. Man, there's musical references everywhere, guys. Got our monthly raffle drawing that we'll be doing at the end of tonight. If you happen to get it, okay, there's Alpha and Charlie says the sign. It's signs everywhere, signs. Happens to be at this airport that the signs are accurate. I guess with the world updates, that's one thing that they are going through and doing, is they're updating the taxiway signs. You'll notice that a lot of the default airports, the taxiway signs are rather arbitrarily assigned and they don't match what's on the charts. So you really have to study those diagrams and kind of figure out which one you're on. You can't rely on the signage, but in this case it looks like they are good. And you'll notice that we are crossing around. I guess I should, to be thorough, I should look left and right, even though we were clear to cross. Remember, the taxi instructions we were given did include the runway, the word cross. There are only 3 instructions you can receive that allow you to enter a runway. One would be cleared for takeoff. The other would be line up and wait. And the third one would be the word cross in a taxi instruction. It's pretty much, unless I'm wrong, guys, unless anybody can think of an exception, I think those are the only 3 situations in which you can enter a runway without further instruction. So in our case, we did get the words cross runway 1 in our taxi instructions, so we didn't have to stop there and ask again. When we do get out to the end here, we're going to do a brief run-up. So we'll run our engines up to RPM, we'll do a magneto check, we'll check to make sure that the
23.
Oh, clear to land, obviously. Yeah, I meant, I'm right. Smitty, you're correct. I meant on the ground, but you're correct.
Southwest 4022 checking in at late level 310.
Southwest 4022, Boston Center.
Back taxi, yeah, that might be another one, Captain Scientist. That might be another one. That might be one that I didn't think of. Yeah, back taxi, of course, in ICAO land they call that back track. But yeah, that might be another one, Captain Scientist, correct. Are we at... Where are we? We're at Bravo? Oh, okay. Yeah, so I think the taxiway signs here are not accurate after all. So what I actually did, I'll show you guys. I'll show you guys. The taxiway signs indeed were not accurate.
Delta 2419, descend at pilot's discretion, maintain for level 240.
So I was like, oh, look, we're at Alpha and Charlie. As it turns out, I was actually at Alpha and Delta. So now I've joined Charlie, although it's marked Bravo. So, oh well. Here I thought I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Dane Flats has stopped in. Dane Flats, how are you, man?
Boston Center, United 902, passing 8.414.
United 902, Boston Center, hello. Climb and maintain flight level 230. If you'd like direct to Kiefer, I can offer you that shortcut tonight.
Yeah, Smitty, you're correct. He says, I only mention it because it's important to hear those words before you touch down. That is true. That is true.
Echo Alpha Victor Romeo.
Alright, we're going to do a quick run-up. We'll let the controller know that we're ready to go.
Kilo Echo Alpha Victor.
Kilo Echo Alpha Victor Romeo, KEAVR.
Alright, so at the whole short line, let's go ahead and set our RPMs to 2200. We'll do a quick mag check. We'll check so that we got 2 sets of magnetos that are producing those electric charges. We're going to set it down to just one set. We'll see that the RPMs will drop just a little bit. No, not even hardly at all. So that's good. If they don't drop much, that's good. We'll check the other set. The RPM's still not dropping. That's good. We'll go back to the redundant set. Alright, good. So mag check's done, and then we'll flex the prop lever down 3 times and back up and make sure that that all works. Get that oil moving back and forth. And then I think we are ready to go. Center ready 514 Delta Victor's 28 at Albany, ready to go. Lose him. He's coordinating with somebody. We'll give him a minute. Dane says, I ordered more screwball eye hardware.
4 Delta Victor, wind 290 at 20, gust 34, runway 28, Coley for takeoff.
They're takeoff 28, 5-4 Delta Victor. And remember, he didn't give us any kind of a runway heading or anything like that, so we default to what is in that Albany 7 departure, which is heading 281. And 4,000 until we're told otherwise.
Walker 725 and ICA 615 mutual traffic 12 o'clock 20 miles southwestbound to heavy Boeing 767 level 350 northeastbound to Premier Jet level 350.
Entering the runway, you get the rest of the lights lit up. Didn't quite do that in time, but we got them now. All right, we're lined up. Temperatures and pressures all looking good. Engines responding normally. We'll go ahead and set our takeoff power.
Climb and maintain for level 320.
Airspeed is alive.
Up to 320, 902.
Keep a little bit of forward pressure in. All right, there we are at 60 knots. We're 80 knots, and we're rotating. Oh, I had a little too much down trim in. Taking quite a bit of yoke pressure to get that thing off the ground. But let's go ahead and get the gear up. And as we get through 400 feet, so the ground elevation was reading 200, so as we get through 6, get the flaps up and pitched up to kind of maintain that 85, although we're up at 100 now. But we can pull the engines back into climb power now, which I use 24 and 24, so reduce the power settings just a little bit.
4022, we have a copy. We have a request when you're ready to copy.
We have a copy when you're ready to request, sir.
Thank you for that, but I guess I'll deal with the request instead. What can I do for you?
We're requesting runway 29er harbor visual for our arrival in Portland.
Southwest 4022, expect that.
Bounced around a little bit here, guys. I did tamper with the weather settings just so we wouldn't have to contend with the icing, since there's no anti-icing capability in the Mooney. But we still have some good cloud cover and some good turbulence here to contend with.
Radar contact at 2000, climb and maintain at 9,000, say passing altitude.
We're at 2,100 now, going up to 9,005 before Delta Victor. So there we go, up to 9. We did not get any kind of a lateral instruction there, so we're still on that heading 281 until he tells us. When you leave a runway and you are making initial contact with the departure controller, now in this case, same controller handling tower and departure, which often happens on VATSIM. Doesn't matter though, that initial contact with the departure controller includes a radar identification. That means you have to verify your mode Charlie altitude. So what they see on their scope, you need to give them a number that matches that within 300 feet. So that's why they always ask you for your current altitude, and then the procedure is to respond with your current altitude and the altitude you're going to, just to confirm that what they have assigned you is where you think you should be going.
Heading up to ZB.
110, direct Gardner, resume on navigation 5 for Delta Victor. Alright, so now direct Gardner doesn't mean we're joining that radial 111 that we dialed in. That means now we're just going direct. We're going to tune Gardner, which was not the 115.3, it was the 110.6, so I'm going to go ahead and swap that in. I'm going to make sure I'm not turning too steeply here. And matter of fact, are we receiving that? We're not.
615 cross Calverton.
So we're going to...
2000 at 250 knots.
We're going to maintain that 110 that he told. Whoops. And I got to make sure I keep the nose pointed up here as I make this turn. Doing all this by hand flight. But we'll set our assigned heading of 110.
JetBlue 2003, click direct puppy.
We're not yet direct to the Gardner VOR, but we're on that one. He said 110 and then Gardner when able. So we'll just keep the 110 in. Manifold pressure has slipped because we're going up into less dense air, but we'll bump that up back to 24 now. Once I get it up to altitude, we'll hand the controls off to Otto, and I'll be able to catch up with the chat messages, guys. I do apologize if I'm being a bit inhospitable at the moment. I'm in instrument conditions, meaning I cannot see the horizon. I'm kind of fixated on this attitude indicator for the moment.
Center American 1180 Heavy, just past KALB, through 7,300 from 14,000.
Again, the manifold pressure slipped slightly, so we'll bump it back up to 24.
Climb and maintain flight level 230, American 1180 Heavy.
And we're passing 5,000 now, going to 9. But yeah, that's one thing. When you get passed from one controller to the next, it's pretty much customary to check in with the new controller that you're going to with your current altitude and the altitude that you're climbing or descending. And if you're climbing or descending per a procedure that has altitude restrictions on it, you probably want to save that too. So like if you're descending via the J-Fund Arrival, you'd be like, Boston approach, Southwest 155, 8,800 descending via the J-Fund 2 or whatever. But that just confirms to them not only what your current altitude is, but what altitude restrictions are you currently operating under. If somebody pinged me in VPilot, probably somebody just saying hi on stream. Because it wouldn't be a contact for me from a controller because we're already talking to a controller. Oh no, I'm just being harassed by some friends. I'm fighting the plane a little bit, trying to maintain a couple degrees pitch up, and trying to maintain that 110. 2400 again. We'll bump the pressure back up to 22. I'm sorry, back up to 24. Oh, I've got the throttle wide open now. You can see we're only getting 23 on the manifold pressure now. So once you get to a certain altitude, the air gets less dense and you're not really going to get as much wide open manifold pressure as your climb setting indicates, but that's okay. At that point you just leave the throttle wide open for climb, and what you get is what you get. So we'll back up and we'll catch up with those chat messages here once we get up to cruise. We got another 1,700 feet to climb, and then I guess we got to double check and make sure we got the correct frequency for Gardner dialed in, because I'm still not receiving that. Gardner is 110.6, so we'll keep that dialed in. See that is what I have tuned in there, 110.6.
American 2265, contact Cleveland.
So we were told heading 110 and then direct Gardner when able. So since we're not yet able to direct Gardner, we'll keep 110.
American 1180, climb to maintain for level 300.
One thing we can do is we're 3 gallons lighter on the left than on the right now, so we'll go ahead and switch our fuel tank. Mooney is one that you have to actively switch back and forth. Oops. Slipped off the heading a little bit. Mooney is one that you actually have to actively switch back and forth between one tank and the other. It won't automatically work from both tanks. It has something to do with the fact that the tanks it's being a low wing and not a high wing. Something to do with the fact that you can't automatically draw from both tanks at the same time. It's just not gravity fed. I remember reading the full explanation somewhere, and I think if you Google it, it'll tell you. But it's typical of low wings, apparently, that you have to pull from one tank or the other. You can't automatically pull from both. And I don't. There is a very, very logical explanation, safety-related reason as to why, but I just don't remember what it is. And I think it has to do if you end up developing a leak in one tank, then running both fuel tanks will just pump all of your fuel out. So I think that is what it has to do with. So it's a redundancy. I think if I remember correctly, it is that kind of redundancy thing. So whereas a gravity-fed tank wouldn't have that issue because the fuel is just dropping, not being pumped actively. So I think that's what it is. Level at 9,000. Let's go ahead and start pulling power back. I like to use kind of 22 and 22. Ooh. Gotta throw some down trim here. Oh. Didn't get the pitot heat on. we are picking up a little icing. We'll worry with a little bit of icing. We won't worry about. If it gets a little worse, we'll play with the weather some more. But pitot heat should have come on at the same time as the runway lights, the landing lights and strobe lights and stuff. So that's my bad. The funny thing is an iced over pitot doesn't necessarily drop your airspeed to 0. Sometimes it freezes it where it is, and you don't realize you have a problem. So we got off easy on that one.
We'll do it, 2003.
Alright, so let's pull some power out now. 22 and 22.
Descend a pass discretion, maintain 1,000, the Bangor altimeter 2927. You can expect runway 33.
7,000, and we got the weather bank for 725, and we'd like to make a request.
And if the icing stays this light, I think I won't worry about it. If it gets worse, we'll engage the anti-icing by playing with the weather if we have to.
Southwest 4022 redirect to Skogs right now.
Okay.
Direct.
Alright, so let's get autopilot on, altitude on, and heading mode on. (22) and 22.
We just request direct to the visual path.
So it's 4022 for now, clear direct to Portland Airport, and I'll have further for you as you get a bit closer.
Alright, direct Portland Airport.
Alright, let's see if we can catch up with the chat again. We are waiting to receive this Gardner VOR. We have nothing on the DME yet.
Because it's night, I can't offer you the harbor visual, but
110.6.
If you happen to follow the harbor visual track, obviously that's totally fine, but officially I can't actually say those words. So again, perfectly happy with me. If you want to fly the track, I'll have you report the airport in sight, and then obviously on the visual approach you can
Looks like that. Looks like it just popped in there.
Copy that. We are
So 59.5, and we're slightly left of course. Now, you would think we need to kind of correct to the right, but that's not the case, because what happened was we were cleared direct to Gardner, so we don't have to follow a specific radial. Direct means just direct from wherever you happen to be. So I'll just turn it until it centers, and then we'll pop it into nav mode. So we can now let the controller know that we are direct to Gardner. And I think I'm okay. The icing seems to be okay. So we'll.
Actually, it was for Southwest 4022. FedEx, no traffic for you.
We'll leave it at that.
Thanks for that. Sorry, similar call sign, FedEx 4142.
American 1180 traffic, 11 o'clock, 10 miles northeast, bound Boeing 737.
Alright, see if I can catch up with some chat messages here.
Looking for traffic, American 1180 heavy.
Southwest 4022 traffic,
We got
10 o'clock, 6 miles, westbound,
Lucas
heavy
checked
Boeing
in, Wiggle Spank checked in, Skyhawk 170's here. Skyhawk 170 with the subscription. Thank you so much for that. He's heading up to ZBW as well.
Boston Center, United 9002, requesting.
We got taxi via Zulu has stopped back in. Victor 4288. Yes, I consider that loud beep 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 sound as harassment. I do. He says harassed, really? Who else stopped in? Did I catch everybody?
2419.
American Airlines, radio check.
Have a good one.
Yeah, American Airlines 0 is climbing on flight level 7.
Okay, so we can, if we get a chance, we'll let the controller know that we are now receiving Gardner and we are proceeding direct to it. But he seems a little bit busy, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. Technically, when you're given a heading, and then it says when able direct blank, and then you later pick that up, you should let them know that you're okay. Yep, yeah, confirm we are now direct to blank. But
I just want to make sure I got the call from the 3 back there. That was American 330 climbing maintain for level 220. American 220, flight and climb to
Yep.
flight level 220.
So far the only major mistake I've made is when I pop the rest of these lights on as I enter the runway. If you remember, I said, oh, I should have popped all these on before I crossed that whole short line onto the runway. The other one that's in that sequence is the one down here, is the pitot heat. If you noticed that my airspeed dropped to 0 and you heard the warning sign. 2942, fine, port Delta Victor. So if you noticed as the airspeed dropped to 0 and you heard that warning horn for a few seconds, and then I flipped the pitot heat on, then it kind of fixed it right away. I'm not sure that Microsoft Flight Sim models that accurately the way it always works. Sometimes, if your pitot freezes over, it traps that pressure in there, and your airspeed reading will just freeze where it is instead of just dropping to 0. So, but yeah, so that little switch kind of important if you're going to be in the cold. Oh, and now that we're at cruise, the other thing we can do is
back in the cockpit.
and probably the reason that we're not getting as much engine power as we expected to get 50 degrees rich of peak. So there, and now we're picking up a little bit more engine power, and you heard the RPM surge there as I did that. Center 514 Victor, we are direct Gardner now, by the way.
Roger.
Okay, so. And I forget now, I think it was kind of a southbound, wasn't it? My memory is that short. Was kind of a southbound turn that he gave us, and then so I had said we were going to get vectored, and then we were going to get told to intercept, and we got even kind of more of a shortcut than that. Basically, from wherever we wound up down here, we were just told just go direct to Gardner VOR and just join the arrival from there. So forget about this one here. That's not what we were told, but that can be what you're told. Intercept the Victor, intercept the 111 radial, the Albany 111 radial. You might be given that instruction, but we were just told direct Gardner, and then resume on navigation from there. So there's a couple different ways they can instruct you depending on what they need.
Cross crank at and maintain 7,000. Destroyed altimeter 2958.
Still kind of, yeah, we're 3 degrees below freezing. So basically, the rule of thumb, it's not ironclad, but the rule of thumb is that you lose 2 degrees of air temperature for every 1,000 feet. So if you take the surface temperature and divide it by 2, that kind of gives you a rough indication of how many thousands of feet you can climb before you hit the freezing level.
Boston Center, United 902, back with you.
That, by the way, explains also why you can get hail in the summertime, hailstorms, because you don't have to go up very high in the altitude to find freezing temps even on a warm day.
United 902, thanks a lot.
All right, 40 miles from Gardner VOR. I'm watching, by the way. It's hard to see. So the distance on the Garmin is there, but it erroneously rounds to the nearest whole mile. But I think this other one down here tends to be off the screen for you guys. I think it ends up behind my giant head. But if you can see that one there, that erroneously gives you rounded to the nearest whole mile. But this is the one I'm watching down here in the lower right. So as you hear me kind of count down, that's what I'm looking at. And I think as I rotate this back into position, that is just barely on my screen. My screen's a little bit wider than what comes over the broadcast, but I also have that face cam there that I think blocks some of those instruments on the lower right. So I don't think you guys can see that. You might be able to see the one on the Garmin reading 38.0 right now. Those of you who want to keep score at home. That gives us an opportunity. We got not JK gets another raffle ticket.
Climb and maintain
So I'll go ahead and get that in.
16,000. That'll be your final. Maintain 16,000.
At the end of tonight's stream, by the way, for those of you who,
American 330, yes, maintain 16,000.
those of you who are new to the channel, yeah, exactly, and flying into known icing conditions. Yep, we got that follow from Benny Bear Boo. We got 4-day for me's subscription renewal. Thanks so much for those subscriptions, guys, those donations, those cheer bits that you put into the chat. We appreciate that so much. That is what allows us to do the giveaways like what we're doing tonight. Benny Bear Boo, we'll come back to your point here in just a minute. But those of you new to the channel, as you accumulate those Twitch channel points, we're going to really monitor this, guys. If it gets bad, we'll like I said, we'll tinker with the weather settings as we need to. The thing to do on a weather night like tonight would be to not fly an aircraft that does not have anti-icing capabilities. I just love this Mooney so much. Open the window and stick your head out, you'll be fine. Yeah, I saw Canadian Captain Mustache do a landing that way once when he was completely iced over, which was hilarious. I don't know if any of you got a chance to see that. I hope somebody clipped it. But Melvin Leroy, thanks for stopping back in. Well, we're talking about the monthly raffle, guys. Your donations and subscriptions and cheer bits and your merchandise sales, all support what we do on this stream, and we give as much of that can back to you in the form of our monthly drawings. As you accumulate those channel points at the bottom of the screen,